I read this book in 26 minutes and I'm feeling empowered and better able to convey dance ideas and concepts to non-dancers because I better understand fluid, social capital, and Haskell. So let's get into it. My name is Mya D, and this is 26 Minute Reads. This reading vlog is kind of like my accountability space because in these videos, I share with you my takeaways from my current reading. And this is book number 1 of my 26 to 26 challenge. And it's an act of self-love and investment into myself and a way of providing myself with some consistency in an ever-changing world. I'm reading 26 minutes per day, so this is more like soul reading rather than speed reading, and I'm hoping that that encourages you to join me along in this journey by reading along with me or by dropping some comments down there in that comment section so that there's an actual dialogue going on. This week, I read pages 208 through 238, and let's get into these takeaways. Takeaway number 1, and I'm getting my notes, is fluid. Got a lot of notes for this week. Takeaway number 1 is fluid. And on page 217 of the book, we find these words, and I quote, "They learn that effective teaching and learning really are informed dialectic and dynamic processes in which roles are fluid and even reversible," end quote. In high school, I had this teacher who did not appreciate being called a teacher. She rather that we refer to her as a facilitator. And now that I've been in the classroom as an instructor, I better understand that that teacher understood the fluidity of the roles, right? This project that, this fluidity, is acknowledged in the reflection taken from the Webster Groves Writing Project, which is where that previous quote came from. The project was aimed at increasing the skills of student participants. And what was extremely remarkable about this project was not just the effect that it had on the students themselves, but the effect that it had on the educators. The fluidity of a dialectic and dynamic process allows information and wisdom to flow back and forth, right? Fluid. The roles are interchangeable between the giver and the receiver through this process. The teachers of writing, the writing teachers that were a part of this project, participated with a desire for their students to better their writing skills. Simple enough. During the process, though, the teachers actually became the students. The book reminds us that culturally different students are the best teachers of themselves. So what does that mean? That means that they know themselves really well and can teach you a thing or two if you are open to it. If you are into the idea and open to the idea of a dynamic relationship. Fluid is a reminder that we are perfectly imperfect. We don't need to know everything. But if we have a strong desire to have that, have a positively impactful relationship with our students, then we want to be open to that dynamic relationship. And that requires us to be open to receiving information to our students. This means active listening and observing, right? So that we can have that exchange of information. After this project, the teachers walked away not feeling that there was a specific method of teaching that worked for all students, but rather it was through that active listening to them that they could better understand how to teach the students in front of them. As we step into takeaway number 2, I feel like this is a great space to say that while I have decades of experience as a teacher, as an educator, as a curriculum writer, and as a dancer, I am not the know-all be-all for this book. I'm simply providing a space for dialogue, actual dialogue, so that we can be better educators for the students that are in front of us right now and those coming after them. Takeaway number 2 is social capital. And on pages 225 of the book, we find these words, and I quote, "In other words, this program explicitly teaches low-income, linguistically and ethnically different students the cultural and social capital that leads to success that middle and upper class students learn implicitly at home, end quote. Now, I would define social capital as your access to resources and experiences based on your network of people, right? And certainly feel free to drop your own definition of social capital into the comments below. The previous quote was taken from a reflection of the AVID program, and the AVID acronym is an acronym, that stands for the Advancement via Individual Determination. The AVID program places lower class and lower achieving students in college. Let me take a sip of water. Got really excited. And try that section again. Here we go. The AVID program places lower middle income, lower achieving students in college preparatory biology, algebra, and foreign language courses with middle class, high achieving European Americans. Now, I'm going to admit that when I read that description, a lot of things came to mind about how this was actually manifesting, and I was happy as I continue to read, because sometimes when we feel uncomfortable about stuff, we have to press through, right, and figure out why we feel uncomfortable and if that discomfort is legitimate. So as I pressed through, I was happy with what I read. I felt more comfortable with what I read. AVID employs a social scaffolding model that creates a community of support where educators serve as mediators, liaisons to students between that high school and college transition. Okay, feeling a lot better about that. Now you might be asking, okay, why do they need that thing? What's the importance of that? The reading reminds us that high income and high social status people have high social capital, and therefore are able to create these experiences and opportunities for their loved one. The quote states that these experiences are seamlessly embedded into the development of the children. So they're already there seamlessly. No one has to say, do this thing. It's kind of already a part of their natural lived experiences. Now, this can look as frivolous as having a celebrity come and sing happy birthday to a 2-year-old child, right? But it can also be as momentous as a child getting a internship at a very prestigious organization or institution just because of who their family is and who they know. I'm going to speak to that idea of that internship, because within that internship, oftentimes is mentorship, something that is extremely important. And to elevate the ideas that are given in this reading, I'm going to bring into play a survey and some findings from a survey that was done by Amazon and Gallup. In a survey that time for some more water. In a survey conducted of about 3,700 mid-career adults ranging in age from 18 to 40, it found that 2/3 of the adults who considered themselves having a career that was fulfilling actually had someone that they looked up to. So I'm thinking this is like a visual representation of whatever goal that person has, what success looks like, a mentor, a supporter, right? The study also found that people from lower income households were less likely to have those career models. The survey goes on to say that 38% of adults coming from low income families said that they had no one to look up to that they considered a successful role model or goal of success, as opposed to only 18% of adults coming from higher income families, right? So let's translate that. So those coming from low income families were more likely to not have a physical representation of success, a mentor, a liaison that could support them reaching that next desired level of success in their lives. And that's what makes what's going on in that AVID program, so important. Now, I'm a dance educator, so let's talk about this from the lens of dance, because as a dance educator, I'm not teaching an academic subject, I'm teaching movement, right? So how does this relate? This study paired with the results of the AVID paired with the results of the study remind me as a dance educator the importance of the micro practices that are established and reinforced within the dance classroom, and more specifically on the community dance floor. So we've talked about this a little in some of our earlier iterations when we were reading books like Hot Feet and Social Change, micro practices that are developed within the dance floor. Now, these are those soft skills and networking skills that are developed within the dance classroom. And they're very important because, as the study shows from Amazon and Gallup, and what is learned via AVID, is that some of these students might not be getting these soft skills and these networking skills at home, right? And okay, that's a thing. And it's also a beautiful place to remember that it takes a village to raise a healthy child. It takes a community to help a student become a successful, productive citizen of the world, is how I'm going to phrase that. I once again say that through reading these books, I find additional vocabulary that allows me to communicate some of the things that I'm doing in my dance classes and how they impact our students. Demonstrating social capital. How does it look like? What does it look like inside of the dance classroom? So here's an example. Every time I pull from my network of celebrity dancers and entrepreneurs and invite them in to speak to my students, I'm demonstrating social capital and creating experiences for them that they might not otherwise have, right? When I speak to my students about being on time, what that really means, what it means to be prepared for a class or a situation, I'm teaching them how to build social capital. I'm teaching them through my actions and the requirements of the class how to build their network. Of course, you can let me know your thoughts about building social capital and sharing how you do that in your classroom in the comments below, so that we are all growing well together, growing better together. As we step into takeaway number 3, which is Haskell. On page 237, we find these words, and I quote, "The programs of study offered by Haskell combines intellectual, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual components of American Indian life into a unique university experience," end quote. I simply adore how reading these books teach me about somewhere else in the world or about an aspect of my community that I was not aware of. So raising my awareness. As someone who's grown up on the East Coast, I'm very familiar with HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, especially since a good number of them are right here on the East Coast and in that southern corridor. In reading this book, I'm now familiar with HINU, which is an acronym that is short for Haskell Indian Nations University. Here are a few things that I learned. HINU University became a university in 1993, but has existed since 1884. It began as an elementary school for about 20 students, then transitioned into a high school, then into a junior college, and then received its official university status in 1993. Similar to some of the HBCUs, where students are required to take courses in African American history or African history, Haskell requires students to take courses in American Indians and Alaskan Native citizenship and contemporary issues. And while the book states that there is no information available about the specificity of instructional strategies within inside of the courses, one of the courses that caught my attention was cultural citizenship. This curriculum includes, and I quote, environmental protection for Indian country, Indian law and legislation, Indian real estate and land management, fundamentals of tribal sovereignty, tribal resources and economic development, Cherokee and Choctaw languages, and courses in American Indian poetry, art, film, history, rhetoric, and literature. All of which sounds like some really amazing course content that I would be interested in, so that I better understand the contemporary lives and contributions and things that are going on in life right now, right? But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for a good book to read. Feel free to drop a title in the comments below, or just drop a book emoji so that I know that you're here with me. This has been 26-Minute Reads with me, Mya D. If you liked this video or found it interesting in any kind of way, please remember to like and subscribe. Read what's down there in those details. There's some really great information down there. Stay blessed, spread a good word, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.